So I got a couple articles here on boundintocomics.com I want to talk about real quick, just because they're both kind of like, what the fuck kind of things. Series reimagining Robin Hood as a black female Gen Zer reminds us it's time for anti-woke reimagining. So I didn't even hear about this. Apparently, Bound into Comics reported on July 29th, so this is like a long time ago, basically a couple weeks, or a little over a week ago. Anyway, Bound into Comics reported that Global TV is beginning production on Robin Hood, a series that is reimagining the English archer of legend as young black female Gen Zer. Jesse Romero will portray the eponymous character. And then they talk a little bit about the synopsis. It ultimately concludes with a hint towards the series' actual plot, teasing when Robin finds herself fighting for her home and her family against local property developer John Prince and the sheriff of New Nottingham. Robin and her band, The Hood, decide to fight back, righting the wrongs of the corporate elite to give back to the people who are living under their regime. It's like, man, why do they always got to do that? Number one, this isn't Robin Hood, because it's like, she's not an archer. It takes place in the modern times. Why do you got to use all the same names and everything and kind of twist them around and all that shit? And plus also, The Hood, her band, The Hood. Like, what the? Just because she's black doesn't mean you have to use that kind of stereotypical bullshit. It's like, what the hell? But anyway, they talk about, you would expect, it'll go as you would expect. And they talk about Anna Green Gables, Cinderella, Tom Swift, and Green Lantern are 4 different examples that immediately come to mind when thinking of characters and stories that progressive and twisted and repurposed in their own image. There's reports of plans for the same for Rapunzel, the Honeymooners. They actually did that with Cedric the Entertainer. Damn it, I can't remember the name of the other guy that was in it. They kind of did that before. Anyway, Cedric the Entertainer was playing Ralph Cramden. This was in the 90s or early 2000s. Anyway, Snow White in Orwell's 1984. They also do it with history. Abraham Lincoln, Joan of Arc, Christianity, goes on, complains about that and stuff, which it needs to be because it's fucking stupid. They do this kind of shit. But anyway, I'll go to the next article. She-Hulk director Kat Coral blames criticism of Marvel series CGI on our culture's belief in its ownership of women's bodies. It goes on and bitches and stuff. She's at some Television Critics Association press tour panel. In terms of the CGI being critiqued, I think that has to do with our culture's belief in its ownership of women's bodies. I think a lot of the critique comes from feeling like they're able to tear apart the CGI woman. There's a lot of talk about her body type, and we base it on Olympian athletes, not bodybuilders. I'm okay with that. I understand, some people wanted her to have more of a bodybuilder size. To me, she should only have huge muscles. I'm not talking about big muscles. I'm talking about huge. She should only have huge muscles when she's really pissed or she's really exerting her strength or whatever. But I think if we had gone the other way, we'd be facing the same critique. I think it's very hard to win when you make women's bodies. I was like, oh god. And then the actress Tatiana Maslany, who plays Jen, she talks some, and we'll skip to that shit. Turning to what she found really compelling about the story, she's treated very differently than when she's Jen. She talks about her anger, her largeness, her taking up space in her room is all fertile ground for us to play with. Flip the standards on his head so you can laugh at it. We're so fixated on women's bodies, whether it's aesthetically or politically or in terms of rights or in terms of autonomy. I think what we do in this show is in touch with all of these concepts. And they talk about her, Coro's statements come in particular came the same day that Entertainment Weekly published an interview with the director wherein she revealed of the series productions. It was definitely something we talked about inclusivity and making sure that the story was told through the female lens. Comic books have traditionally, in the art, been through the male gaze. So there was a lot of talk about what is the female gaze and how do we create this from our point of view. One thing I always come back to was the wish fulfillment elements of getting to see her walking down a dark alley and someone gives her a hard time and she's able to kick their butts. It was something that every single woman could relate to, any woman, of any age. How exciting would it be to walk home in the dark and not worry? You realize men worry about that stuff too. But She-Hulk was able to walk home even while wearing headphones and not worry because she has the power to not feel vulnerable physically. And I think that's a pretty unique thing that only a group of women could have brought to this. Among other much more nuanced things as well. That's your example of nuance? Like, what the fuck? But anyway, I'll link these articles in the description box if you want to read it for yourself. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it talks a little more and she's just spewing bullshit. I've already been 4.5 minutes in this video. And it's just the same old shit. If some guy comes up to you in a bar and it's obvious what he wants, but you don't want to offend him because you're afraid of being rude. Jennifer Walters has a new part of herself that doesn't have to temper that and doesn't have to put up with things she doesn't want to put up with. Jennifer Walters doesn't have to put up with that crap and everything. And it's like, yeah, there's real nuance there, you idiot. But whatever. Like I said, I'll link this in the description box. You can read it for yourself. Thank you very much for watching and have a good one.